What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Tom Nagel and today I'm talking about the Canon EOS R5 and the Sony a7s III.
Action! Action!
So I think the biggest question on everyone's mind is which camera do I get? So today I wanted to kind of just talk to you guys and give you guys a little bit of my opinion on what I think as a filmmaker and photographer and let you guys know what I'm gonna get. I'm not gonna go over a lot of the specs. There's a lot of videos out there and I'm sure you guys have been reading up on both the Canon and the Sony on all the specs. But I'll talk a little bit about each camera and what might be best for you. Let's start with Canon because that was the first camera I owned, which was the Canon 7D. It's what I started on. And obviously everyone's talking about 8K. Well, they're talking about overheating as well, which are two big things. Now for me, 8K on the R5 isn't as important as I think the overall package. As a filmmaker, I don't see myself shooting a lot of things in 8K, but having it is a pretty cool option. I think there will be some cases out there where, you know, you have this beautiful landscape or just something that you know you might want to punch in and get two shots out of. And that's where 8K will come in handy. Now the overheating issue with the 8K seems to be pretty huge. I know Canon says almost 30 minutes. Some people are saying 15, 20, 25. So it's all over the place. And I think it also depends on how hot it is. Here in LA, you know, it's in the 90s, could hit 100. It might last 10 minutes. But for me, I think I would never be shooting that long. I might grab 10 seconds here or 10 seconds there just to capture something specific with the 8K. Now, the other big thing for me is the ability to shoot 4K 120, which I know the Sony does as well. And again, Canon seems to be overheating in this mode. Now again, for me, I won't be shooting 120 frames per second for very long. I might, again, grab a specific shot, just something specific I want to be in slow motion. So for me, is it a factor? The overheating. Yes, it is. Does it scare me? Yes. Is it scaring me so much not to buy it? Maybe. Which takes me over to Sony. Now, Sony video specs, it doesn't do 6K, it doesn't do the 8K, but it really does look like they have perfected 4K, which for a lot of just filmmakers, it seems like Sony went out and instead of saying, hey, we can shoot 8K and we could do all these crazy things, but you only get 15 minutes of it, they've perfected what we really need as a filmmaker. And that is shooting 4K uncropped, shooting 120 frames per second, and even 240 frames per second in HD, which is a pretty sweet little thing that you can do. And Sony claims no overheating. I did see one YouTube video where it looked like one a7s was overheating. I don't even want to talk about it too much because overall it seems like it's not really having overheating problems, which is great if you're doing interviews or, you know, you're shooting a concert and you got to let the camera run for 2 hours. Which is another thing, Sony has no time limits. The R5 has some shooting time limits of 30 minutes. Now I've heard rumors that there might be a firmware update where they lift that. Please, Canon, do that. Because even in the modes that don't overheat, having to stop at 30 minutes and just hit record again is just kind of an annoying thing, and I don't know why it's there. So for video specs, they're both pretty awesome. Canon obviously has this overheating problem, and Sony does not. The one big thing the Sony has over the Canon is the low light performance, which originally when I switched to Sony was because of the low light performance. And back in 2015 when we started shooting ClownTown, I started playing around with the Sony a7s, which I'm currently shooting on right now. And the reason being was because we didn't have the money to have tons of lights. So if you're a filmmaker, a guerrilla filmmaker, and you're doing low budget short films or feature films or just projects that you cannot afford a bunch of lights, the a7s is just sweet.
Clowns are like a pack of dogs Ghosts haunting this town for years.
So after I got the a7s and shot ClownTown, I ended up shooting the ToyBox, which was my second feature, also with the a7s. Now, we didn't need it as much for low light, but it just looks so nice and beautiful. I didn't see a reason to, go get a Red or an Alexa or anything crazy. Plus, we were shooting a lot in an RV. It was very tight, so having a small, camera body, I was able to, crawl on the ground and get in little tight corners and things like that to get the shots that I really wanted.
Hey, Dad, you said 15 minutes 30 minutes ago. We passed it.
He's right, we need to turn around.
When the cold wind blows.
It took us out in the middle of nowhere. It's slowly killing us.
It's kind of crazy for me to even be thinking that I would be switching to Canon after all these years when Sony has been just amazing for me. Now here's the problem though that I'm having, or at least I'm debating in my mind, is I do a lot of photography. And what I've been shooting on is the Sony a7 R2, which is an amazing camera and I love it, but I have Canon glass. I do have some Sony lenses, but my best lens is the 70-200 L series. It's my favorite lens, and for portraits, it's just, it is, I don't think you can get any better. And I can't totally say that because I haven't really tried out the top Sony lenses yet. I hear they're good, but I've already invested in Canon. Now when I shoot photography on the a7 R2, I use a Metabones adapter, which overall does okay, but the autofocus sucks. I've even gotten back from shoots and there's been some great shots that literally are just out of focus. It was a couple inches off, which when you're doing client work, you just can't have that. Now the Sony and the Canon both have new focusing systems, although I think the Sony is what the a7R had, the a7R 4 had, I believe, which everyone says is amazing. I have not personally tested it out, but from the videos I've seen, it just looks fantastic. So I don't think focusing is a problem, but let's talk megapixels. The new R5 is a 45 megapixel camera, which is needed for the 8K, and it also is for photography. Now the Sony a7S III is a 12 megapixel camera. Megapixels aren't everything, and most of you guys know that, but the big problem with the Sony is when I have a client shoot, some of my clients require, at least 24 megapixels or 30 or 40, whatever it is. I don't even think I could walk into a job with 12 megapixels because if they want to take that shot and let's say blow it up on a billboard, we're going to run into problems. Now, if you're one of those people out there that mainly do video and do some photo, 12 megapixels will be fine for you if you're just uploading to, let's say, the web, the web or Instagram, Facebook, things like that. You'll have no problems. But personally, for me, being able to switch from video to, grab some stills for a client that they can then blow up or use in a professional aspect, I guess. For me, that's really important. So the question is, after all these years of upgrading, do I buy the a7S III and the a7R, or do I just get the Canon R5? So I think that's kind of where I'm at. I ordered the Canon R5. Can I cancel it? Yes. Have I? Not yet. But I am debating it. Since the a7S III has been released, it just looks amazing. And if you are more of a filmmaker than photographer, I would say get the a7S III. And that's just from my experience with the a7S and the a7S II. And, from shooting Sony these past years, it's just been awesome. I love Sony. But it might be time for me to switch to Canon. Maybe not switch, just get a Canon and still have the Sony. What I'm thinking of doing is getting the R5. It could be my main camera, and I'll keep the a7S1 still for those crazy low light situations. If I really need something in low light, I can still pair it up with the Atomos, get some 4K, you know, footage, and it still works amazing. In a perfect world, I'll get the R5, and maybe in 6 months I'll have enough money or book a big job, and I'll be able to buy the a7s III and have them both, which would just be incredible. So anyways, I just wanted to give you guys my thoughts on, you know, what I'm gonna do. If you guys have any questions, please hit me up in the comments below. We could start talking about it, we could debate it, whatever, but would love to hear from you. Also, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.